Welcome back to the TRBusiness video channel. Joining me is Jennifer Cords. I've got the pleasure of speaking to you today. Thank you so much
Hello.
for catching up with me. Jennifer, I'd like to begin by asking you about your role. It's been just over a year now, Director of Corporate Affairs at Heinemann. Tell me a little bit about how you're settling in.
I'm settling in, but it's a journey. It's a duty-free journey, duty-free travel retail journey. And so I don't feel that I'm completely new in what I'm doing because, I worked for Imperial Brands before. So I was in charge of corporate affairs before. But in Heinemann, it has a wider scope. In Gebr Heinemann, corporate affairs includes the corporate communication, compliance, and corporate responsibility. So to keep it short and simple, I would say we promote and protect in corporate affairs. So the promoters is the communication department, and the protectors is corporate responsibility and compliance. Yeah, that's a team, amazing team.
Wonderful. Now, as you quite rightly mentioned, many of our viewers will know you from your former role at Imperial Brands. You mentioned that you have transitioned now into the position. How smooth has that actually been, moving from a brand to a retailer?
Transition sounds so formal. Transition. So change. And from a brand to a retailer, I would say the retailer I'm working for is a brand as well. So I'm moving from a brand to a brand, definitely. And to heritage and tradition, almost 140 years. So it's a good retailer to work with.
Now, Heinemann has been quite public in its desire to sharpen its political profile and engagement with associations and governments. Tell me a little bit about the evolution of this new division, the Corporate Affairs and Compliance division. And would you say that the emergence of this is as much to do with the scale and intensity of the challenges facing travel retailers as the clear growth trajectory that Heinemann appears to be on?
Well, duty-free travel retail is not self-explanatory. We all working in this incredible, wonderful marketplace. We know what duty-free travel retail is, and we can explain it. We can explain the difference between airside and landside, between duty-free, tax-free, and foreign duty paid. And then you see all the technicalities, how difficult it actually is, how challenging to explain to people not working for our industry. And I would say corporate affairs is a lot about this creating dialogue. Because when regulators misunderstand duty-free travel retail, it's sometimes carved in international legislation. And that's a big difficulty. So, we have a different supply chain, a different value chain, and that does not go without saying. I think the easy way out to say this does not go without saying is a big trap for duty-free travel retail. And corporate affairs is about the dialogue. You can call this political, or you can call this common sense, communication, but promote and protect. Yeah.
A lot of this invariably has to do with risk-taking and calculated risk-taking, particularly when it comes to launching new products or entering new territories for Heinemann. Is that risk-taking becoming harder in terms of the way you're assessing the markets? Is the risk getting greater?
I would say risk-taking is in the DNA of good salespeople, anyhow, as good salespeople. But they need nowadays more research, more factors. You mentioned informed choices. So informed goes with information and information gathering. And especially in a digital era, I would say it's more and more difficult to find and differentiate between the fake news or fake information or the information that is relevant for the risk-taking. And that's also a big part of compliance, to say what is the risk that a supplier takes, what is the risk that we as a retailer can go with together on a mutual basis. You can call this partnership, friendship even, but again, dialogue is the key.
Okay, the other side of the coin, of course, for Heinemann is the economic, social and ecological impacts of the business, duty-free and travel retail, and how Heinemann is helping to address that. Now, you already have very strong sustainability credentials. We know that. You have an alliance with the UN Global Compact, Ocean Care, and various other associations, including an eco-profit certified status, as I believe.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit more about how you're trying to drive forward and build on both existing relationships and new ones.
Our corporate responsibility agenda, and you have seen the recent report, the CR report from Gebr Heinemann, is called Think and Rethink. Because this describes best the current status that we are in. We are thinking and rethinking. What suits us best? Our history, our future, the fourth generation, the fifth generation. What matches with our values, our core values? What matches with the sales agenda? What are the initiatives that we are doing anyhow because it's part of our daily business? And so for us, it's important that we call it corporate responsibility. Yes, sustainability is a part of that, but responsibility has a wider scope. So this is a first decision that we took. And then you mentioned UN. So signing up for the UN principles really means that we think and rethink how we can contribute to the UN agenda, to the world's to-do list. And it's a process. It's an ongoing process. So I think we are good learners. We're quick learners, and there's a lot of dialogue and discussions within of Gebr Heinemann, and also with the different regions. And every region has, of course, a different focus, and is also asking questions. So I think we are on this journey together. And we also take the opportunity in Cannes to ask suppliers or at our own strategy day to see how far they are and what focus they chose fits for them, and then see and take learning. So I think in terms of corporate responsibility, we have some very encouraging initiatives on the supplier side. And we need to ensure that, where do we get inspiration from the fast movers, and where can we take those with us on a journey who are not as far. So we are in the middle. We are really in the middle of the value chain, what we call the downstream process and the upstream process. So supply at the one side, but the people traveling on the other side, and they have strong opinions as well. That we can see on Instagram, that we can see on social media, because they give us direct feedback. So retail is the communication platform for whatever they see and like or dislike about the products.
Okay, and one notable initiative from Heinemann is its drive to reduce single-use plastic.
Yes.
And obviously you've been rolling out a program across many of the European airports. I think you've extended it this year to Germany and Austria and other parts of Europe.
Yes.
So just bring us up to date a little bit on how that particular initiative is panning out, and the wider implications of really pushing to ensure that levies are in place for single-use plastics at shops.
So for us, this goes, of course, with the cooperation of Ocean Care. But apart from that, a simple pragmatic view of we want to reduce plastic, because everybody knows it's not good for our environment, especially for oceans and maritime. So we looked into the pragmatic solutions of reducing plastic, and we were successful. So 70% we reduced our plastic bags. But also we do this with a think and rethink approach. Is this the right thing to do? Is this enough? What can we achieve? Can we achieve more? What do the airports think about? Can we have more partners, different partners? You have to constantly think and rethink the initiatives about corporate responsibility. It should not be a marketing exercise. It should not be a shout out loud. It's a pragmatic way of doing something, and I'm with TFWA President Alain, who said everything matters, or with Tony Blair, who said everything counts. So we are definitely with that, but we are also looking into carefully monitoring that we find a good umbrella for all these initiatives. Because currently these are initiatives. We are looking into the world's to-do list, to the UN principles and the Sustainable Development Goals. But it shouldn't be too fragmented. Yes.
Okay.
Plastic reduction and waste reduction in general, not limited to plastic, are important initiatives and puzzle pieces in a bigger CR strategy.
Yeah, quite. And you mentioned the 70% statistic.
Yes.
That was achieved, if I'm not mistaken, in 2017.
Yes.
What are your ambitions, realistic ambitions, going into next year and the 2020? Is 100% reduction in single-use plastic, is that a pipe dream?
Yeah, that's up for discussion still, because everybody knows that the alternatives, real alternatives, are difficult to find. Maybe you heard about the bamboo discussion and the sourcing of alternatives and what is the right way of doing. You need to be careful. You want to do something good on the one side, and then by having a wrong alternative, you're creating a mess on the other side. We need to be careful about that. That goes with an evaluation and informed choice again. So compliance can help a lot on that.
And looking at it from a sort of bird's eye view, if you will, Heinemann's now transferred to a fifth generation of family ownership. And we have Max Heinemann now at the helm as CEO and Speaker of the Executive Board. What's Max's take on this particular issue? We don't have Max here, fortunately, to ask him. But from your perspective, is he backing this agenda?
Yes. I mean, this is so. I joined in Heinemann's HQ when Max joined as the global CEO. So he's on his journey as well, and it's very interesting. So I cannot give you a glimpse behind the curtains, definitely not. But it's a journey we are taking together, and the change is definitely part of that. And creating a corporate affairs department where we have dedicated people looking behind the CR initiatives and developing carefully a CR strategy. That's definitely part of where not only Max but the owners have their own signature behind. Yes.
So it'd be fair to say that he's fully behind and committed to making change in that division and driving forward that agenda.
Yes, yes. Okay. I'm reporting to him, so he's my boss anyways. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Now, I wanted to talk to you, actually flipping back now more to the regulatory side, and I want to talk to you about liquor and tobacco, mainly tobacco. Liquor, tobacco, confectionery accounts for the majority of Heinemann's business. EU-wide track and trace for tobacco came into effect in May. That obviously requires suppliers and retailers to comply with some pretty strict regulations, and critically for the retailers to ensure that there is a tracing mechanism in place and accountability at every stage of the value chain. So I wanted to ask you, how are Heinemann adapting to that new regulation, adapted to that new regulation, and the relationships you have with your suppliers? Can you just sort of bring us up to date?
Yeah, so we, as Gebr Heinemann, we fully respect the idea behind track and trace. So the idea behind track and trace is, of course, to have a secure supply chain about tobacco, which is a controversial product. So this is where we completely understand where it's coming from. And now there's the but. On an operational perspective, dealing with a global supply chain for duty-free travel retail, the full burden is on retailer side. So this is, of course, something from a company's perspective that we cannot accept. And where we have been and we are very busy in creating awareness for the operational burden with authorities. This is constant work, almost on a daily basis. I think there are a lot of learnings from track and trace tobacco, but it's yeah, of course, with our logistical excellence, what can I say else? Yes, we can manage, but still the operational side is unreasonable from the technical implementation. But of course, we can handle. I mean, we're prepared for it. Yeah, we just see that definitely we see the intention of the Tobacco Products Directive, where track and trace is coming from, and then where it went wrong in terms of the idea of the regulator and the technical implementation. So it's a very bureaucratic monster that the EU created.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question, Jennifer, moving into next year. It's a broad-ranging question, but what are your chief objectives, either on the corporate affairs side of compliance or the regulatory side?
You already asked a question about my objective with regard to, okay, you already reduced plastic bags by 70%, what do you want to achieve next? So there are a lot of questions in there. So I think the CR report with the claim Think and Rethink is a very honest way of, well, it's not titled on behalf of the future, it's not a very dramatic, bold way of doing, but it's a humble way. So we want to move into the direction of a CR strategy. But as I said, it's a journey. So CR strategy instead of CR initiatives. Real KPIs. Say, okay, we want to reduce by X, that. Whether that is waste reduction or plastic reduction. But as I said, for us, it's not only plastic reduction, it's waste reduction. So we want to come up with some good KPIs. And of course, the reporting line to the UN that we officially have. We want to manage that deadline again. That's an important objective for us. And defend the industry and be able to do that, even if it's ad hoc, because sometimes you do not see things happening. And therefore, we need to build up new alliances or re-establish old alliances.
A lot of learnings to absorb and
Yes.
a lot of work to be undertaken, and we'll be paying close attention to those in the coming year. Jennifer Cords, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.